Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, the show where we help corporate execs experience time and financial freedom. Thanks for joining us today. We are going to continue our conversation, and I'm going to bring him on here with Dan Claps from Voda Cleaning and Restoration. It's been a while. We haven't had guests in a while. And not only that, we're doing a two-part series because I felt like there was so much in here and there's so much you can, talk about being on both ends as a consultant and broker and now as a franchisor. So thanks again. I really appreciate the time. And we're just going to continue the conversation if that's cool with you. Let's talk about, so outside of Voda, let's just talk about some questions we get. And I want to, you run a franchise, you're the franchisor, and want to get your feedback as to kind of, how you would explain this. So the question we get a lot is, and and this is almost a daily thing for me, but I'm looking for a business that I'm passionate about. The way I explain it is that the passion is more of what the vehicle gives you, right? So that business, whether I don't know, picking up dog waste, home services. I went really extreme with that one. Something that allows you to have the time and financial freedom. So it's not the actual underlying service offering of the business. Can you talk into more detail about that? Maybe you talk about it differently, but I talk about passion being the why and what you're trying to create from this vehicle. So I guess the floor is yours. I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
I think passion comes from what you're doing day to day, right? Like if I like to work out, but like if I own a gym, I'm not working out all day, right? That's not what I'm doing anyway. I love restaurants. One of my favorite pastimes is going to restaurants. But if I owned one, I wouldn't be eating all day, right? I'd be doing a lot of other things. And so to me, passion lies in, like, for me, I like building a company. I've come to realize what I love most is developing people. I love when someone's making more money than they ever made working for me and giving them a platform to do that. And I think in home services, if you're passionate about building a sales organization and a customer experience and building a team, whether you're in restoration, cleaning, roofing, whatever, you're not in that day-to-day business. Quite frankly, as the owner of a business or the CEO, you're not in any of the day-to-day. If you took me out of this and put me in the candy bar business or, running a hotel chain, I would do the same things I'm doing now. And so I think the passion needs to come into leadership and developing people, at least in home services and really any franchise, in my opinion. Now, I also believe that business is a vehicle to get you to an end goal. Like, work to live, don't live to work, right? And so, I'm passionate about skiing and working out and dinner and my family, and I love what I do at Voda. And it's also the vehicle to give me the life I want. And so I don't think people should attach so much personal connection to their business. I actually think you become a much better leader of a business when you don't call it your baby. I did that. My last business was my baby, and I was emotionally attached to it. I didn't make decisions the best way that way. Whereas when you run a business and you understand it's a living, breathing system separate from you with an org chart that has nothing to do with you,
Right.
and you're the owner, not the you're the owner, not the player of the team on the team. I think when you could separate that, you don't need to be as passionate. And then I think that leads you to much more success versus I love this thing. It's my hobby that's now become my nightmare because all I'm doing is, my hobbies become my job. Sometimes that doesn't work out so well.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I always like to ask this question because, I get different perspective. If you're running I'm a soccer fan. We're going to Italy, Ecuador on Sunday. Really excited
Nice.
for that game. But if I was in that business all the time, I think I would almost kill the passion for the sport because I would be doing the things and involved in the day to day. And that's my escape. That's where I go with my son and my family. Go to the games and watch his games and watch the pro games. So I think it would kill the passion. Sometimes you need that escape away from things. And I like that perspective. That was interesting. Questions that we get, and I want, and this is perfect, and restoration being a really large industry, and as well as cleaning. So the question that comes up quite a bit, and not just in restoration, cleaning, and in other industries like, owning a gym or home service, painting, being one, or cleaning. But Giuseppe, I like the idea of restoration, but there seems to be a lot of competition. I have a response for that, but before I get into how I respond to that, I'd be curious, how do you respond to someone saying, well, there's a lot of, in my area, and that's usually how the wording goes. There's tons of competition. I feel like the market is way too saturated. So what's a common thing for a response, or for you to have them look into?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, right? And restoration's a very, very large industry. It's a $210 billion annual commercial industry and an $80 billion a year residential industry. To put in perspective how large that is, home services is a $500 billion industry, expected to grow to $625 billion, and $300 billion basically is the restoration. Now that's a broad topic, anything to do with restoration.
Right.
Water mitigation alone is $17 billion. And so what I tell people is, how many pizza places do you see in your town? Probably a lot.
A lot.
Pizza is a $25 billion industry, so there needs to be a lot of pizza places. That's a fraction of the restoration space. And so there's a lot of restoration companies because it's a very large market. Now,
Right.
You don't know about that market because, unlike a fire truck that drives by when there's a fire, you have no idea that a water event's happening near you because it's a quiet event that a truck just drives and fixes and moves on. I tell people, I think our biggest, the elephant in the room is ServPro. ServPro is a big company. They do $3 billion revenue in a $300 billion space. And so we're actually a very fragmented industry. We're actually competing with the mom and pop kind of truck in the truck businesses. They've gotten by being a lot less sophisticated, a lot less organized. They don't have good branding. They don't have a lead gen system and SOPs. And we're winning business. We're really taking market share from those businesses more than worrying about one large competitor. But I encourage people, call your competitors in your area if you're interested in restoration. I mean, you'll see the bar is low. And so we've elevated that bar. And that's really how we're winning, so much business.
So as part of that is not assuming, right? It's gathering the information for the prospective franchise owner to look into and gather, not just look out the window and say, well, there's 3 or 4 companies out there, we're oversaturated. There's a reason. There's demand for the industry. That's why there's so many businesses, but many of them just don't do it well, right? They may be out there, but they may not be profitable. They may not be doing a lot of work. So it's good to do your research as well as get the facts. I didn't know those facts, so that was actually really interesting. I didn't realize the size, and even with a company like ServPro, what percentage of the market they have. So that was interesting. You're at an event right now in Vegas, and I appreciate you joining us today. And that's in regards to restoration itself. Taking a step back into franchising, you had your checklist, right? Kind of like when the franchisee has a checklist of what they're looking for, the characteristics. You have a checklist of what you wanted as far as a business that you'd like to run and take over. What are you seeing industry trends outside of restoration, just in franchising in general? Are you seeing trends? Are there big changes to come? I know a lot of franchise we work with, the franchisors offering a nice suite of services so that the franchisee has a smaller footprint, if any. Maybe they don't have an office at all, or very small staff. So are you seeing certain industry trends, and not specifically restoration, but maybe in the, we'll say, home service industry, or just in franchising in general?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing, it's a great question. Well, first of all, there's a lot more real estate investors coming into franchising, and home services has become a prominent investment category.
Mhm.
And 5-10 years ago, a home service company could get by just training people, and that was it. And that bar has been brought so much higher, where we bring in lead gen, not just us, a lot of home service franchise brands,
Right.
lead gen, marketing, call center, bookkeeping services, hiring programs, programs to help with sales. And so, there's a lot more of a robust playbook that people can buy into when they get into a home services franchise. What I love that I see in franchising is founder-led brands going on rapid growth. For a while, there were a lot of brands growing through other types of growth engines, but I've seen a lot of people like myself, some other, kind of young founder-led businesses or owner-led businesses. In my case, I joke I'm the finder. I found Voda,
Right.
not the founder.
I like that. Yeah, it's true. I like that.
But we're not, we're working with franchise owners for the long term. I think what you'll see, there's a lot of private equity activity in franchising. I think that it's a blessing and a curse. A lot of brands, maybe are running toward an exit or getting acquired. We want to build this for the long term. Our vision is to be the largest privately held home services platform. Where that makes it a little bit different for us is our decisions. We're not making decisions like on a quarterly basis. We're making decisions on a 5, 10, 15-year time horizon.
Right.
I think you'll see more of that. And I think you'll see more people. Like, I recommend, if you're listening to this, read the book, The Millionaire Next Door. Home services is one of the best, industries when it comes to, earning potential.
Yeah, great book. I was introduced to that book about 15, 20 years ago. It's been probably 20 years ago. Excellent book. So definitely that's probably the number one recommended book next to E-Myth. So you would think it's all these other fancy books and strategies, and it's back to the basics. And we have all these assumptions, but you find out it's the guys with the fancy, in many cases, and the fancy cars and the suits. I think there were some facts. The average millionaire has one suit, and it's not a custom suit. It's not an expensive suit, even their vehicles. And I thought that was really interesting. And then I got to meet some of these people that lived in our neighborhoods, and it's like, wow, this is, it's not the flashy cars. They're some of them were just so far in debt. They were upside down in many cases. So, what advice do you have to anyone that's new, corporate exec? They're just got laid off, looking to leave their job, looking to create that safety net because layoffs are down the road. What's I guess to end the show, your parting, advice to anyone looking to make that leap into to owning their own franchise?
Take one step. That would be my advice. Reach out to yourself. I mean, run the process. Like, I think I tell people that all the time. People come into Voda looking at Voda thinking like they're going to be like pushed into something. We don't care. One out of X will buy. And when they're the right fit for us and the right time, then that'll work out. I've had so many people go through our process, call me a year later, say, hey, thanks so much. I ended up buying, a fitness concept a year later, but it's because I learned X, Y, Z going through this experience. So go through the process, like pick up the phone or go to your website. I mean, that's my thing. Nothing has to be just because you make a phone call means you're doing something. I think just taking the steps, that's my advice. Just take one step if you want to go into business ownership, because it's like having kids, never a good time to do it. There's always an excuse, but just run the process, see what, you might find out you're not a fit for franchising.
Right. That's a good point. I always, I reference the book, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Figure out the who. Figure out someone that, not the person with a lot of opinions that you may go to, but the person that's actually done it, that's owned the business. A franchise. It doesn't even have to be a franchise. Any business, they've gone through it and just get their experience. See kind of their opinion on things. I think that's a great starting point. Get out of your head. There's so much information out there, but figure out. I always like to say, instead of figuring out how to do everything, most people end up doing nothing with it. That's why these business plans sit on a Word document on your laptop or whatever you're using, or your phone, I guess I should say, for years to come, decades go by. But get out of your head, figure out what the ideal situation is and work in reverse. I found that to be, the anxiety level drops. It becomes less overwhelming. But yeah, talk to someone. I'm more than glad. People say, well, I'm early in the process, and I go, great. So is everyone else. And let's figure out together if a franchise is a good fit. And in many cases, it's not, and that's okay. There's, going back, there's no pros and cons. There's differences. It's what you're looking for. And if you're looking to create everything from scratch, from the logo to the labels, to the logo, to the colors and everything, that's fine. Maybe a startup is the way to go. I've had people buy franchises, learn systems, and get up to speed on things, and then launch their startup, which is fine. That's another way. There's no right or wrong. So I really appreciate this. Website is myvodafranchise.com. I'm going to put that in the on the show notes there. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way, Dan? Can they reach out on the website or?
Yeah, they can. If they reach out to the website, I know you've connected us to some great franchise owners we have in our system. You know what I'll share that I really appreciate about your approach is, you know, what people don't realize about a franchise consultant is you're a second voice. Like our territories, for example, we work together on territory on the a couple of franchise owners we have in our system through you, and thank you for that. People don't realize franchise consultant doesn't just make matches. There's a lot more that I saw you provide in value to those franchise owners. So you reach out to you or to us, but definitely my advice, I'll just finish with, take the one step. And if it's not Voda, look at other restoration. I don't know, but it's a great business, restoration, home services in general. And I really do appreciate it. I think I've told you I listen to this show sometimes, so maybe I'll put this on the treadmill and probably not, though. I hate my own voice.
I don't like my voice either. I listen to the shows as well at 1.5 speed. I want to get the information. Everyone sounds like a chipmunk, and then you talk to them in person, and you're like, wait a second, that wasn't their actual voice. But you learn a lot. Even I always say if you pick up one thing from the show, that was a success. And if you have any questions on anything we discussed today, more than glad to review it with you. So Dan, thanks again. I know this was one in the we've been working on this one, and it was on May. We just had launched a new site and CRM. So thanks again. Looking having you back on. And if there's anything else that I missed that we didn't talk about, either I'll bring you back on, or if it's something that's I want to add on, I'll throw that in the show notes and the blog as well. But thank you again. I really appreciate the time. I know you're traveling, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks again.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.